Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, talking fishing. If it's facts about fishing that you want to know, then tune in, folks, cause this is the show. We'll show you all the right bait to use, so sit right back, you got nothing to lose. Doesn't really matter if it's trout or carp, flathead, marlin or a gummy shark. Listen to the guys and you can't go wrong. They'll be talking about fishing till the cows come home. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing.
Welcome everyone to Talking Fishing, our last show for the current season before we take a break for winter, and wow is it a big one. Tonight, a special guest joins us in the studio to discuss the science of kingfish, calamari and cuttlefish. Also, some disturbing news coming out of Canberra regarding the management of Southern Bluefin Tuna that we all should be concerned about. News that the VFA is recruiting fisheries officers, and of course, all our regular segments. There's plenty to talk about, so let's get into it with a big welcome to the man who travels by kayak, Adam Ring. Welcome, Ads.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you very much for joining us again this week, because I must admit I'm a hell of a lot more relaxed now than I was at this time last week.
All good, mate. I'm not as relaxed, I can tell you. It was a relaxing week. It was beautiful. It's also a big welcome to the man all the way from down the Geelong Freeway, Chris Pittman. Welcome, Chris.
G'day. Great to be here again.
Trelly AWOL again.
Yeah, I think he's back in the country now, so he just touched down.
Would he be sober, do you think, after
no, probably not this time of night, so no.
Yeah. And tonight, we are joined by someone who is no stranger to the show. He is Australia's most knowledgeable scientist when it comes to squid, Dr. Corey Green. Welcome to Talking Fishing, Corey.
Thank you, Dave. I knew you'd talk me up like that.
Always talk you up, mate. No, we know the work you do, and we just absolutely love it. And the work that the Victorian Fisheries Authority, you and Paul Hamer and your colleagues down there, it's second to none. And it's the stuff that us recreational anglers want to know.
And that's why I'm here. And it's really good to get all this information.
What are you here for?
That's a relief.
And it's good to get all that information out there.
We've got some awesome stuff tonight. So you've been doing a bit of work on kingfish.
Yep, kingfish recently, yeah.
Yeah, but also we go back to a bit of your calamari work.
Yeah, a bit of historical stuff.
Yeah, a little bit about that favourite species of mine, the cuttlefish, haven't you?
Got a little bit to talk on. Yeah, no, I'll keep that for later.
And we're going to finish the show with a little bit of info about that freshwater jellyfish that we spoke about the other week. Yeah. If anyone's going to know anything about it, it's the man sitting to my left, I can tell you. So, boys, the weather. Walking into the studio tonight, is it still 18, 19 degrees, 20 degrees out there or something like that?
It's fantastic.
It's the 1st of May.
How good is global warming?
Good.
It's only going to get better too.
It's incredible for our fisheries too, and we were talking earlier on off camera, because we're not going to be able to reveal this tonight, but we'll hear about what this man's going to do about it. Is that where do the kingfish go in winter? Well, it's still warm.
I was going to say, they'd still be hanging around
red hot question.
Almost no winter.
Anyway, we'll talk about all that later on. But anyway, folks, let's have a look at what's been caught by the people at home. It's time for Catch of the Week.
Catch of the Week, brought to you by Shimano, providing reliable, trustworthy, quality fishing gear for your enjoyment.
And this man should live at the Tyre Bank, sitting to my left here, because he's the scientist, but this is the actual capital of calamari in the world. The Tyre Bank, Sightchild Peak, I think that's how I say it. A beautiful calamari off the Tyre Bank once again, and that place is just on fire this week.
Yeah, and they all seem to be big. You don't see too many small ones come from the Tyre Bank.
This time of year, Corey,
this time of year, it's a little bit uncanny for this time of year. You usually get them a little bit later, a couple more months' time, but there's been a lot of squid that size coming around.
These fish aren't going to die, so size-wise in July, August,
they might. They're getting up to their maximum size there.
Well, they won't keep growing bigger?
No, they only live for a year, so they'll grow a little bit bigger. Yeah. But eventually they'll reproduce and die. Oh, when they're about that big.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right, let's keep going along. The top end of Western Port is on fire, and as we've been saying for the last few weeks, that water temperature as it travels through 18, 17 and even into 16 degrees, the snapper will fire. And Rashad Mosengol, have a look at this fish, a lovely 6 kilo specimen from the top end of Western Port. It's pretty good fishing.
And I never thought I'd say it, but the snapper fishery is actually sneaking under the radar, because we've had some great reports. The top end of Western Port clearly getting it done, and they're all big fish.
Yeah. Chris, over in Corio Bay, you getting the same sort of run of snapper as you
We are. It's probably as good as it is in the height of snapper season at the moment, so it's good to get out there now while they're around. So that entrance
land-based in Crow Bay? Because you guys
there's a few off St Helens there at the moment. If you sort of get the wind in your face and it blows and stirs the water up, they'll come in nice and close. And Port Arlington as well. That new harbour there is fantastic.
Is it?
Yeah, especially on a big northerly blow. Yeah. Great land-based location.
I had a look at that the other day when I was over for the celebration of no netting, and we drove back to Port Arlington and had a look, and that is a magnificent piece of infrastructure.
They've done a fantastic job down there.
Absolutely. Let's keep going. Alan, he got a gummy shark in Western Wood. Have a look at that. Lovely specimen there.
Species of the month gummy shark.
Isn't it? So good. The rip, plenty of people still fishing for the yellowtail kingfish and plenty still being caught, but Lou Cipri, he couldn't get one, but instead he got 5 kilo salmon, and hasn't it been a great year for salmon? Everywhere.
I was there just a couple of weeks ago, and there are plenty of schools outside the rip. Yeah, a lot of fish.
Amazing.
Not that big, but there was a lot of fish out there.
Fishery. The old blue spot flathead, I got stuck into them the other day too myself, but the Werribee area is fishing very well, and Tibby Flora, have a look at that, 78 centimetres.
It's a big fatty.
The fillets on them are just fantastic, aren't they? You just lick your lips, bit of beer batter and lemon.
That's cricket bat size, that one.
Yeah. That's nice. Let's keep going. A few pending records coming up. Off Port Fairy, on the way down to Portland, you don't have to go quite as far, but Tate Misson out with Dad Tam got 143.4 kilo Southern Bluefin Tuna, and boys, plenty of reports of barrels down off Portland this week.
Yeah, that's right. That's massive.
And they've all been huge. And guys are
they're
getting
not 100 kilo, are they? They're well over now.
Well over, 120 plus.
How long until we see 150?
Yeah, just a matter of time. Let's head down to the swordfish capital of Australia now, because it seems to be not quite this one, but this is a pending Victorian record. Not sure which one, for Amy Adamo. Did I say that right? Adamo, sorry, Amy. Amy Adamo, a 94 kilo swordfish off Lake's Entrance. And let's have a look at the next one, because this is record breaking. This is unbelievable. Mathew Boyle with a 349 kilo broadbill swordfish out of Lake's Entrance.
Yeah. Jeez, they're an amazing fish, aren't they?
That's massive.
How do you get that on the boat?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question.
Like without 8 mates.
You might need a winch.
Yeah.
You'd have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Or open the door, open the side door.
Yeah, but still pulling 349 kilos. That's a feat.
It's a big fish.
Well, that's a big fish. Yeah. There was a lot more fish caught. Obviously, we could only show so many on Catch of the Week, but Lake's Entrance is the capital, isn't it? Particularly if there's a pending Australian record.
It's huge.
And anglers are only pretty much targeting one canyon at one depth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wait till people start exploring.
Have they got it right, or is there room for more fish and bigger? Who knows?
It's hard to argue they haven't got it right with 349 kilo swordfish crew there.
The game fishing in Victoria, you got your swordfish, you got kings, you got tuna. It's becoming almost the new capital of Australia in terms of game fishing.
You don't have to travel far these days.
No need to go to Narooma and things.
Let's head down to Tasmania, because I've just spent 8 nights down there, and it's just absolutely superb fishing. We were off Coles Bay, and have a look at this for some of the best eating fish. John Olsen got some beautiful Tasmanian striped trumpeter there. And
we know they're beautiful to eat, but how good are they to catch?
Yeah.
The fight for the first sort of 30 seconds, minute, where you hook them right on the bottom over a bit of structure, they are an unreal fish to catch.
The old electric was just doing its job. Fantastic. Just hitting the button on the electric and getting them up to the surface was just fantastic.
I take it all back.
I had it for tea last night, and I had the leftovers for lunch today. It was fantastic on that fish. And have a look at this. Michael Buxton got a fish called a raise brim. And we were offshore for swordfish that day, and no, we didn't land a swordfish, but that was on the way down. At one stage, you got a double hook up on these. On the way down through, I think, travelling 350 metres deep, a double hook up on what we found out to be raised brim. We had them sashimi that night, and they're actually a bit firm. We had them sashimi the next night, and they melted in your mouth. We had them cooked various ways over the next couple of days. They are sensational eating.
They just look like a deep sea
Don't hear much about them.
Type of thing.
We didn't know about them.
Interesting fish.
We do now, and they look prehistoric. They're dark colour, and
They're quite an old species as well. You know, they're getting down to the depths of orange ruffy and blue eye down that deep, and generally those deeper fish are generally older.
Sensational eating. There you go. If you'd like to send in a pic of your catch of the week, this is what you have to do.
If you want to be like me and have your photo on TV, email your fishing pic to info@ifish.com.au.
And next on Talking Fishing, fisheries news including all the info on how to become a fisheries officer right after this.
Talking fishing.
We know what you'd rather be doing.
We know what you've really got in mind.
We know you'd rather be out fishing. And today's the day you're gonna wet a line. 'Cause every day's a good day.
Stop wishing. Every day's a chance to drift away.
Drift away.
Every day's a good day for fishing. See it down and tackle world today.
Talking fishing, nothing but fishing. We're talking fishing.
Live from the studios of Channel 31 Melbourne, it's now time for some very fishy news.
Plenty of news, and we want to fly through it because we've got to talk to Dr. Corey Green about kingfish very, very shortly. But let's kick it off with Snobs Creek Hatchery. There's an open day there on June the 3rd, 2018. That's this year, coming up in about 4 weeks' time, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get along to Snobs Creek Hatchery. It's not open all year round like it used to be back in the 1960s. It's only open about once or twice a year. So if you want to get up there, put that date in your diary, June 3rd, 2018. I think it's a Saturday, could be a Sunday, who knows. Anyway, there you go. There's all the details. Let's keep flying through ads.
Yes.
Talk Wild Trout.
Talk Wild Trout is back for another year. And if you haven't been, please get along to it. We were there last year and the amount of information you get is unbelievable. So there's been a date and a venue change. So it is on Saturday the 11th of August from 9:30 till 4:30. And it is at the Darebin Arts and Entertainment Centre, the corner of Bell Street and St George's Road in Preston. Please register because it helps with catering and seating, etc., etc. at vfa.vic.gov.au/talktrout. We'll put that up on Facebook during the week. Heaps and heaps of stuff. Rex Hunt will be there talking about his trout fishing journey. There's fishing tips from a guide, Phil Weigel, who is legit when it comes to catching trout. Everything covering health cards for the best wild trout streams, climate and trout forecast, whole kit and caboodle. Please register, please have a look, because I learnt more in one sitting on this thing than I have out of anything else I've ever done with trout. It's an amazing event, so please register and go and have a look.
There you go. Next one, if you're up for a challenge, fisheries officer careers are on offer. The Victorian Fisheries Authority has commenced a recruitment drive to fill vacant fisheries officer positions across the state. Travis Dowling said the roles would suit passionate individuals with integrity, wanting a challenging career, often on the water, protecting fisheries resources for future generations. It's a job outside the 9 to 5 norm where your office is Victoria's beautiful waterways. The position will be full-time, ongoing and based predominantly in regional Victoria. So you need to be prepared to move to regional Victoria. The VFA is committed to increasing the diversity of its workforce. So women and people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds are particularly encouraged to apply. The successful candidates will become part of the team of 74 fisheries officers stationed throughout Victoria, from Malakuta in the far east to north to Swan Hill and west to Portland, so widespread. To find out more about a career as a fisheries officer, visit vfa.vic.gov.au/recruitment. There you go. And you need to apply by 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 30th of May. So you've got a month to do that. If you want to be a fisheries officer, give it a go. Follow those instructions. All right, the next one is a bit disturbing, boys, and only news that I've, a few whispers, and I had a few phone calls from a few concerned anglers today, is that the Commonwealth Government is proposing, well, I don't know whether proposing is the right word, bullying the state government and threatening them that they are going to take over the management of Southern Bluefin Tuna, recreational fishing Southern Bluefin Tuna. Now, just to paint the picture, I would have said, and I think we all know it, Southern Bluefin Tuna stocks have been getting better. I mean, we've just been talking about it.
Yep.
They're regularly caught off the heads now, off Western Port. They were seen on the webcam of Pope's Eye 2 weekends ago.
They're out of Queenscliff Pier the other day.
Yeah.
I saw them off Queenscliff last week, yeah.
So we've got this abundance of stock, and there was a 500-tonne increase in Australia's quota for southern bluefin tuna on the world scale. You know, so there's a quota set. That entire 500-tonne was given to the South Australian commercial industry. So no increase in recreational take. There was a while back an undertaking by the Commonwealth Government to do a comprehensive study on what the estimated catch is for recreational fishing. They haven't done that, but all of a sudden they've come out and they've said, Victoria, we want you to halve your bag limit. And if you don't halve your bag limit, then we will take over the fishery. We're going to do it anyway, and there'll be penalties if you don't conform to halving the bag limit. Now, we saw elephant fish reduced to 1 bag. How many people go targeting elephant fish now?
Yeah, not many.
How many people are going to drive to Portland, pay accommodation, and they're allowed to take 1 fish? When the barrels aren't running and you've only got school fish you're not going to do it, are you?
Why does this pop up every year? Every single tuna season we sit back. I'd love to know, is it a political move? Is it why do we keep hearing about this? Because, like you said, from our point of view, we've seen an increase in tuna catches and stocks.
Yeah.
Why does this pop its head up every single year as if we're almost being led to believe that southern bluefin tuna are endangered species?
I don't know. Something I also find disturbing, and I've spoken to Rob Lotz today, the chairman of Verfish, and I understand that Verfish and Minister, I think she's Assistant Minister Ruston from the Commonwealth Government had a bit of a meeting last week, and I don't know the content of that meeting, but there's a bit of heat going on, and a few people have found out that this meeting took place. Now, I don't know whether Verfish agreed to reducing the bag limit on southern bluefin tuna or not, but they did put out a statement that says that they don't support Commonwealth intervention using tradable quotas, limited tags, reporting, or additional fees, which I think's been on the table for a while. But they also don't support changes to recreational fishing management arrangements for southern bluefin tuna without adequate consultation with the sector. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not tough enough. We're talking about a fishery that is widespread, that is worth probably millions to the economy, that tens of thousands of anglers go and do every year, and they don't want changes unless there's consultation. How about coming out and saying, no, the stocks are abundant and we want an increase, if anything?
Yeah, it baffles me why it gets brought up every year, to be honest.
Please trust me, southern bluefin tuna is under threat by the Commonwealth Government. They do not manage one single fishery for recreational species, and they're threatening to take this one over and take recreational fishing for southern bluefin tuna off you, the angler. We need to fight it, and unfortunately tonight's our last show for the season, but we'll keep stuff up on our social media because this is a fight we need to fight. We're not going to take it. The fish are in good nick, the stocks are in good nick, and we need to fight for this fishery because it ain't going to the commercials the way they think it is. It's staying with the recreationals.
Yep.
There you go. All right, let's get on with it. Corey. That's the news. Time to talk some fun stuff. Now, you've been doing some kingfish research.
Yeah, for sure. Have been for the last couple of years. So we all know that years ago, 20 years or so ago, there was probably a lot of kingfish all around Victoria, mainly, and the Rip. Then they sort of went away. Not too many people were catching them. Last 5 years or so, there's been a real resurgence of kingfish in Victoria, and the fishery's just growing bigger and bigger. So at the Victorian Fisheries Authority, we didn't really know about them. So one of the things that really underpins management is good science, all about our bag limits and size limits and all of that. It's all the science that goes in. Since we didn't know a lot about them, we used licence money to work out a bit about the population dynamics. So just on our first slide there, we've got all our nice. We got yours truly over there catching a nice.
And on the left of screen is your farmer, I believe.
Yeah, he likes catching the old fish. He took me out and got a 21 kilo king when I was about 13 years old. So
is that right?
And in the
but there's more
days.
and more boats in the heads, and
there could be 100 boats out there.
Now, you asked for people to donate samples, and I think we've got a few photos of some of the samples, or what you do with the samples.
Yeah, right. So just on the next slide, so we got around 450 samples or fish frames donated all around the state. Now, obviously they're not donated up in the Murray and whatnot. all the fishing shops, and we had dedicated people at boat ramps. So we got 450 kingfish frames that I can tell so much information from. It's been fantastic. And just from that, you know, we saw that there was quite a large size range of these kingfish from right around the state. And that's really, for a scientist, that's big in terms of what it tells us. There's young fish moving up and getting older and bigger, and there's big fish reproducing. So it's really, really good stuff.
Genetically, are they all related, or is there some separate stocks? I think you had a bit of a map here of
we've got the map
some of
there.
the places.
So we got all our fish frames from Western Victoria, Central Victoria, Eastern Victoria, but also wanted to have a look at some samples from New South Wales and Tassie. There's a similar project going on down there, and we got fin clips, and we looked at the genetic makeup, just like you and me are different based on our genetics, and we compared that between the states, and they're all one stock. So we know that there's certainly some sort of migration occurring or gene flow occurring between these three states. So should they be managed as one stock or not? That's the sort of questions that we're posing.
Yeah. Some information that you've been able to discover is where they reach maturity. So that's obviously when they reproduce.
Yeah.
At what age and length are they when they reproduce?
Right, so we'll just grab up that next slide there. We've got a bit of a graph. So with the frames, we've got the ovaries out of the females and the testes out of the males, and we're able to stage them to see how mature they were. And so I've got a few sciencey graphs here, but I think it's important to show the sciencey sort of graphs. So a female would mature at around 95 centimetres, okay, and a male, which is quite a large kingfish. And a male around 75 centimetres. But that's 50% of the females that are out there and will be 95 centimetres. So they're still
fish
smaller
that you're taking
fish.
around that, or around the size of them, of 65, 70, even 80, they're not mature fish.
No, but they still can be. There's still going to be a proportion.
Okay.
It's not going to be. There's still going to be a proportion that are mature.
Yep.
Okay. So it's not just they reach this 95 centimetres and suddenly at that point they're really they're mature. It doesn't quite work like that.
And when do they spawn?
So up on the next graphic there. So we sampled all year round to see when they spawn, and those peaks there, that gives us a bit of an idea of how big their reproductive organs are in comparison to the body. And those peaks there are high during November and December. There's a slightly difference between the males and the females, but around that November-December period, which is when they look like they're spawning, which coincides when you see a lot more fish moving inshore, and they're really aggregating that space as well. So we can't actually pinpoint when they spawn, but it's likely that they'd be spawning at that time.
Yeah. So much information to learn about the yellowtail kingfish, but we've got to go to a break. Up next, product of the week, and we'll continue our chat with Corey Green on kingfish right after this on Talking Fishing.
Talking Fishing.
Good morning, spotters. Stephanie speaking.
Product of the week, brought to you by Tackle World.
Talking Fishing.
Now, something a little bit technical for product of the week to round out the season. We actually want to discuss how to choose the right jig head for your soft plastic. There's so many on the market these days. With so many plastics to accompany them, it can get a little bit confusing. So here's the quick version. the first bit, and possibly the best bit of advice I can give you apart from rigging them straight, is actually the order in which you should look at it to choose your soft plastic. I personally think look for hook size first. Hooks that are too big or too small can dramatically decrease the action or the desired action of soft plastic. So look for your hook size first, and then you can marry up your weight depending on what sort of application you're using it for. So the first one I want to have a look at is just the standard way in which you typically see most soft plastics rigged. So it's a standard data type head. This is a little flick bait style. So this version of a soft plastic is something that you're relying 100% on the angler to get the desired action. So small little jig head, data style head, work it really aggressively, you're not necessarily worrying too much about a tail action. With this type of plastic, this is a little squidgy bio-tough here, and it's the same sort of concept for a Z-Man. As I take that plastic off, you can see with the jig head, the keeper on the actual hook doesn't meet the head. That is absolutely crucial for this type of plastic. They're very, very stretchy, and they don't hold jig heads very well. So having that little bit of extra room between the head gives the plastic something to mould around. You don't find you have to rig them anywhere near as often as you would a normal jig head.
No, once they're on, they're on.
That's right. So that's your standard jig head.
Ads, can I just ask you, so you talked about the hook size is most important, obviously for your species, because you've got to be able to catch like a normal, if you're putting a normal hook on. But the weight, that's something to me that I'm no expert in plastics fishing, but I'm always going, you know, is it for the depth? You know, do you want it too light, too heavy? You don't want it to, you know, you say tail action, but obviously tail action would be affected by how heavy that jig is. It's going down fast or going down slow.
It depends on the style of plastic. We're going to touch on that a little bit more as we keep going, but it depends on the style. Because, well, here's a perfect example. Up next, this is a tiny little flick bait style plastic. So absolutely brilliant for an application where you're fishing on fish that are very high. So we use this quite a lot fishing for brim on pontoons or boat hulls or overhanging branches. It's actually a hidden weight. So you can't see the weight from outside of the actual plastic. It's all tucked inside to give it the most natural presentation, but it's also very light. So it's designed to keep it up in the water column. Very specific style of jig head, but perfect for fishing those extra shallow instances on a wounded bait fish style presentation.
And I notice it's got a nice fine gauge there, which would help penetrate.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Then from one extreme to the other, this is a little football style head jig head. Great for fish that feed solely off the bottom. So flathead, you've got a big paddle tail plastic like that on an oval style head plastic to give that presentation of a fish feeding on the bottom, completely unaware of its surroundings. The element of surprise comes in. That rigged with a yabby plastic for a yellow belly, absolutely dynamite. So that's solely designed to keep the plastic on the floor. There's nothing finesse about that. They're all heavy jig heads. They all keep them up. This one is very interesting because it's probably the most diverse. You see plastics rigged like this for barramundi, but down here we see them for kingfish. All the weight sits in the belly of the jig head to keep it stable, so that it sits perfectly, it swims straight and tracks straight. It's rigged weedless. That's all partly to keep the action consistent, but also obviously for barramundi, you can throw that into anything you want. You're not going to get snagged. We could talk about this for hours. We don't have the time. It's more complicated than it's ever been. But basically, match the hook to the plastic so that you're not killing the action, and you can marry up your weight from there depending on the conditions that you're fishing.
There you go. Thanks, Ads. Quick lesson in soft plastics. Let's get back into the discussion with Dr. Corey Green from the Victorian Fisheries Authority. Now, Corey, some of the work you've been doing, you've got 450 samples of kingfish.
Yep.
One of the things you've been able to determine is the age and the size of the fish, and I think we've got a graph about that there. Tell us a bit about that.
That's right. So with the frames, we cut out what's called the otolith. That's the fish ear bone. So they have a couple of pairs within the ear. So as these ear bones grow, they lay down rings, and we count up the rings to estimate the age. So when we match that with the length, we get a growth curve, and that tells us a lot for fisheries science about how fast they grow. So onto the next slide, we see some of the larger fish that we caught by one of our ex-staff members as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Mick Moore. Mick Moore.
There we go.
Yep.
In Geelong.
That's right. So we caught this fish a bit over a year ago, I think it was, and massive fish, 21.8 kilos, which is 800.
That's a fair fish.
Yeah, and I'm spewing too because it's 800 grams bigger than the largest kingfish that I've caught as well. So we aged that, and that's only 11 years old, really. So really fast-growing species. So in terms of science, that means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot for us.
Now, you're tagging some of these fish, and I know it's a very expensive exercise. You've got a tag here.
I've got a tag.
Let's just explain that. That is what, $4,500 worth?
$4,500 for one tag.
Tell us what it does.
So we've got a bit of a trial because I didn't want to buy 20 tags and then let them all go. Yeah. So it's a satellite tag, and when we tag this onto a fish, we
might come back to have a look at the one in your hand rather than the slide. Yep.
So it captures a lot of information. It captures depth. Temperature, the time, the amount of light that it goes in. So when a fish gets tagged, the fish swims down and again collects all this information. But I've set the tags to detach from the fish after a certain period.
Explain that. How do you set a tag to come off a fish?
Well, these are all programmable. So when on the computer I set the date. So there's a little, it's almost like a soldering joint here. So it erodes it really quickly at a specific date. So in August.
So you can set the erosion rate?
Yeah, or the date.
Or the date.
The date in which I want this to pop off. So it'll then float to the surface. Yeah. It'll hook up to the satellites, and all the data that it's been collecting about where it's gone, the depth it's been, is all collected, sent through the satellites and into my computer.
Yep, that's amazing. That's pretty cool.
Even if it ends up in the guts of a big shark. Let's have a look at the slide that we were just showing before. So you put one in off. Where's that?
So I went out off Port Fairy, and there's some kingfish around Julia Percy Island. So we put a tag in. There was only a rat king, around 60 centimetres long.
That's the green line that's on your left. So the green line is gives you an idea of where the fish went. So it went directly south. So it's over the shelf.
Yep, over the shelf, and so that was on the 5th of April. Then on the 25th of May.
I need to put that slide up again. We're taking it down while we talk about it. No, the previous slide. If we can get that one back up.
So on the 25th of May, you'll see that green line finishes. Now, it finishes for a particular reason, because the tag didn't collect any sort of light anymore. So what we think it's happened is that it's been eaten by some sort of predator, seal or shark or something of the sort. Now, if you go to the next slide.
So that's to the west of King Island.
Yep.
It pops up out as either shark or seal droppings. The other side of the Flinders Island group.
That's right. So it popped up through there. So if you have a look on the next slide, this is the depth that the kingfish went over that period of time. So that's the blue line. It's travelled along. It's gone from 40 metres down to 100 metres. Has some sort of erratic behaviour going up and down in the water column, and we know that it's been eaten because the fish is, or the shark or whatever it is still going up and down in the water column.
Yeah. Amazing. There you go. That's kingfish research, and you've still got a lot to do. You've put another tag in a fish just recently.
Yeah, we got good fish around 90 centimetres off Ocean Grove, so that was really good to get another tag.
And how long will that tag? How long before that tag pops up?
I've set that to pop up mid-August. So when you're talking about, I think you asked before, where
they go during the winter.
That's going to tell us where they go. Finally, we might be able to have an answer. Look, it's only one fish, so
It's a question we get asked all the time. Where are they during the winter?
I want to know where they go. They'll either switch off. They might be still there all winter inshore, but they're just not eating.
We will find out shortly when the tags pops up, and that'll be in the next season of Talking Fishing. Up next, we continue our chat with Dr. Corey Green from the Victorian Fisheries Authority, and we learn about calamari and cuttlefish right after this on Talking Fishing.
Talking Fishing.
From apparel to footwear, the Performance Fishing Gear collection is built for fishing of all kinds. Whether you wade in sun-scorched saltwater flats, hike into mountain rivers, or fish anywhere in between, we want to keep you out there and keep you protected. As well as pants, shorts, and vented shirts, the collection includes arm sleeves, neck gaiters, hats, and shoes with drainable midsoles. The apparel and footwear in this line are built around fishing, but can be used in any setting, handling the toughest environments.
Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing.
Welcome back to Talking Fishing. We're talking with Dr. Corey Green from the Victorian Fisheries Authority, and he's the man that if you want to know about squid, he's the man to answer your questions because he's the absolute expert. We've heard about the kingfish, but let's start talking about calamari now. And you've been doing a fair amount of research over a number of years now about calamari.
Yeah, yep. So this, again, similar story to the kingfish. We didn't know a lot about the calamari at the time. There's a lot of being caught. There's a lot of targeted effort. We needed more science for the management.
Probably, a lot of people turn to snapper in a couple of months of the year, but probably the most fish species in Victoria, I reckon, year round.
Yeah.
And
definitely,
certainly one of the best eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, they're great. They're great.
So what do you know about them? Tell us how many legs, arms, all that sort of stuff. What do they got?
Yeah, so on our first slide, if we just touch on that, but unlike the octopus, they've got 8 arms and 2 tentacles. So that's something a little bit different.
Often called candles? Is that
candles as well. So they use that to shoot out and grab the fish. These are my 2 kids up there who went out for a day fishing with me and caught some cracking fish. The throat goes right through their brain. You know, it's something really bizarre about them.
Got a couple of blokes at work like that.
And there's a picture on the right there with the beak of the calamari, and it's just like a parrot. And they need to really chop up the food really, really small because the food goes through their brain. Any big pieces of food, you know, it'll give them a bit of a headache as they go through.
Have you boys ever been bitten by a calamari?
Yeah, tiny one, like tiny.
Arrow
It
squid.
hurts.
Oh,
They're vicious.
They're angry.
That beak's like a parrot beak. It hurts.
It draws blood for sure.
Yeah, you've been bitten, haven't you?
Plenty of times.
That's scary.
But one of the other things about these amazing creatures is they've got 3 hearts. You know, unlike us, they've got a heart to pump their blood around, which is a copper-based blood that carries the hemoglobin around. But they've got a heart on each one of their gills. Unlike a fish, to
do what?
To transfer all the oxygen, to keep the blood moving around. Yeah, it needs to go really fast.
Be handy with the cholesterol problems we have us old blokes that have 3 hearts. You can just get rid of one and rely on the other 2.
That's right, you could do it. Yeah.
What do you know about their size?
Yeah, so again, we relied on fishermen to collect information for us, but we also went out and, in general terms, squid from the northern part of the bay were quite small in comparison to squid from the southern part of the bay. I don't know if you found that in your fishing days.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Those Queen's Cliff fish are a lot bigger than even the ones off Clifton Springs.
Yeah. So that tells us a lot about their size and their spawning. So when we get back onto the next slide, we've got to talking a little bit about maturity of them. We'll see that there's. Again, I've got a very sciencey sort of graph because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But if we just split that in half and say, look at the males on the left-hand side. Now, all the mature squid, most of them are occurring around spring, whereas the immature squid we're seeing right through the year. And something similar is happening with the female squid. So, mature squid are found in spring, all right, and we can see those immature fish year round, and that's really beneficial for the fishery because we know that based on their life cycle, there's always more squid coming into the fishery over and over. So you can catch them and they'll be replaced by all these new fish year after year.
Can I ask you just on maturity, the bigger fish down, say, Queenscliff compared to something that's up the top end of the bay, is the age the same but the size is bigger? So is a 6-month-old squid at Queenscliff much bigger than a 6-month-old squid up the northern end of the bay?
No, we didn't find that at all. All squid are about 1 year old. That's their entire life is done in 1 year.
Yep.
And their growth rate, if you look at the hood length, they can grow 1 millimetre of hood length in 1 day. So if you can measure the hood length of, say, 30 centimetre squid is about 300 days. So, but yeah, no difference.
So you're saying then that, I've fished a little bit off, say, places like Mount Eliza and Frankston, and they're quite often 25, 30 centimetres.
Yeah.
They're actually young squid. They're not.
They're young squid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not slow growers.
Yeah.
But they'll have they will have different growth rates over the year, depending on whether the water temperature is warm or cool, as well as food availability that's around at the
So
particular
when they get
time.
bigger and they want to spawn, they head down to the
south,
faster flowing,
spawn,
fresher
that's
water.
right. And the research that we've got is that they'll spawn, and the smaller squid will then start migrating back up the northern parts of the bay, where it's more sheltered and secured, grow larger, and when they become this mature size, they'll start wandering back down and around that southern part of the bay for breeding.
It's amazing, one of those few species that don't necessarily migrate. The whole life cycle of that squid happens within Port Phillip Bay or Western Port. Do they transfer between the two, or do you find?
Haven't found that out. But it's not just restricted to Port Phillip Bay. There's squid all along our coast, just all depending on habitat, and they could be migrating out into really, really deep water. Yeah.
How deep do they go?
Oh, down to 50 metres. We've had them. Yeah. But there's also, that's what I've had them at. But there's other reports out there by different fishers who catch them a lot deeper as well.
Reproductive condition. Next slide. If we can have a look at that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so you might have a mature animal, but we don't know when it actually wants to spawn. You know, the conditions might not be right. So again, with all the sampling that we did, those blue circles that we've got up there, they indicate that a group of squid are ready to reproduce at around that winter-spring period. So even the large squid that we've seen being caught of Tyab and whatnot, they're breeders, but they might not be quite be in reproductive condition based on the conditions. So we're just waiting for that winter-spring to kick in for them to really have their first spawning, but then there'll be another spawning in summer as well.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the spawning, and you've got some good photos here of just what it looks like where they... Is that laying eggs? Is that the right terminology?
That's the eggs. Now, when we had a look at, did some diving and went all around the bay, and we found eggs in all sorts of different habitats. You know, some were in that brown seaweedy stuff. Others were in this specific seagrass called Amphibolus and Zostra. So we mapped that around the bay and had a look to see what areas are important within the bay relevant for spawning.
And you also looked at their movement.
Yep. So
you tagged them. We've got a tag here.
We've got a tag here. Here's a little tag. It's not quite as large as our big satellite tag.
But you attached that little one to a squid.
That's right.
Calamari.
Yep. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see a tag that's been inserted in the calamari. So that's the little black piece on the
and the next
squid.
Next slide, you'll see where they've moved.
We won't get onto that yet, but so we've had receivers around the bay and they listen for the tag.
And then you were able to determine, I think the next slide shows where they've been. Yeah,
so this is just a few squid that were tagged. You know, we've gone from St Leonard's all the way down to Point Lone Star Bight, fish from Blairgowrie to Mornington, and Mornington right up to the north of the bay. But there's certainly movement going along. But that key area for the spawning is right down that southern part of the bay, and that's where we found all that particular weed that they wanted to spawn on. So interesting.
A technical question for you.
Yes.
Do you feel like we're rushing you?
Yes.
Because they're yelling in the air. Right, way over time. Coming out next. Go out next, this week's hotspots, because we've got to give you them. We'll be back shortly. We're going to tell you all about cuttlefish on Talking Fishing.
Talking Fishing.
G'day, Callan here from Paul Worsland's Tackle World Cranbourne. Supercharged batteries have been supplying maintenance-free marine batteries since 2001. The SEAMASTER Gold range is second to none, delivering superior starting power and reserve capacity. No need to top up with water, truly a fit and forget battery. With up to 2 years replacement warranty, you know you have quality. Your battery is your lifeline. Without it, you're dead in the water because it's bloody hard to push start. I've got a SEAMASTER battery in my boat. Make yours a SEAMASTER Gold today.
Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing.
And now the segment you've all been waiting for.
Hotspots, brought to you by SEAMASTER Batteries. Make yours a SEAMASTER Gold today.
All right, let's get through these pretty quickly because we've got lots to talk about with Dr. Corey Green from the Victorian Fisheries Authority. Let's kick it off with the capital of calamari in Port Phillip is Blairgowrie, no doubt about it. The cooler weather should be upon us very shortly. Once we get through these 20-degree odd days in early May. But Blairgowrie, capital, Calamari, good spot. Head down to Seaford Pier if you want some garfish, some lovely garfish being caught off there. If you want to head over to Western Port, the Tyre Bank, Calamari and Cuttlefish being caught there. And for gummy shark, the #1 spot, the Western entrance in Western Port. Let's head to the west of the state now, and the last one, the fifth one, Portland tuna. Chris?
They are on fire. There's school fish, there's barrels, whatever size, even a lot of 40-kilo fish, so which is pretty cool, and they get them on stick baits too.
How far out are the big fish?
They're sort of more at Lady Julie Percy Island.
Okay.
And the barrels are sort of west too, near the horseshoe as well.
Yeah, there you go. The other one is out the west, Lake Purrumbete, also a favourite this time of year. The big brown trout, I've turned it on.
Yep, up on that east bank there, first light, first sort of hour of the day, just flatline trolling Tassie Devils, about 3 k's an hour.
There you go. Just wanted to test the button pusher in the next room, but how quick we can get under those. Let's get on to the hot topic of cuttlefish. Corey, where I don't think, we had this discussion off air, I don't think that people are going out and targeting cuttlefish, myself. I think more people are catching more of them just as a bycatch of calamari. There seems to be an abundance of cuttlefish.
There could well be. There could. I haven't got the stats. I haven't got the numbers. I can only rely on people like your good self.
Yeah,
like
but you must be seeing them too. Like
I see them coming through the reports and things like that coming through.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still have questions whether there are more cuttlefish out there or more people targeting them.
Something you got your eye on to maybe do a study.
It's one of these intriguing sort of spaces. You know, the fisheries sort of develop over time, and just like the other kings and the calamari, we don't know a lot about them in Victoria. In other areas in South Australia, they know so much about them.
Even in traditional areas, Chris, you were just saying off Barwon Heads,
30 metres of water,
chasing gummies,
gummy sharks. You see your bait just sort of pulsing, pull it in, you got yourself a nice big sucker of a cuttlefish.
I was off with Ocean Grove Charters the other day, and we had a jig just bouncing on the bottom, ready trying to catch some kings, and a cuttly in that 30-40 metres of water jumped on the jig, and we caught it.
So this is a kingfish vertical jig, not a just bouncing.
This is a kingfish jig. Yeah. And
they're aggressive.
You got a little bit of information, I think, on a couple of slides here about the cuttlefish. Are they your kids?
No, they're not my kids. I don't reckon. But just a couple of examples of some of the cracking fish that you can get this time of year.
They're massive.
Huge.
Bit more information on the next slide about them.
Yeah, so as you saw, those fish, they're huge, and they can get up to 10 kilos, some of those fish. Huge. 50 centimetre hood length. 1 to 2 years of age. So unlike the calamari, who's only 1 year old, a slow cuttlefish won't mature fast enough. So then it will wait for another year to grow larger.
What do you mean a slow
growing cuttlefish?
So some are fast and they'll only go a year?
Yes, that's right.
And some don't get to maturity, so they last another year.
So they last another year until they've reached maturity.
So interesting.
We'd have a couple of blokes at work that would actually go to 2 years of age, I think. They're a bit slow.
Yeah, don't know. There's no saving those days. they can wait more than 2 years and they'd still struggle.
Seriously, so they don't spawn in their first year. They get another year of life.
Yeah, but they
spawn in winter. Kill them.
Yeah, so after they spawn, they'll die, okay? So unlike the calamari, who can spawn multiple times. So different creature altogether, different lifestyle.
One of the things I've found, we'll go back to the slide in a minute, but one of the things I've found is that, and I've found the ability to target cuttlefish because there's a location that I go to and it's a different style of jigging to calamari, is that they're very hard to catch in winter. So do they, once they lay their eggs, are they sitting on the nest or something? Or what do they do? Because you probably don't know the answer, but I just find they kind of shut down through the winter months.
They spawn during winter, so after they're spawning, they essentially die.
How they die?
So they're not
there to catch them.
No, they're not interested in feeding.
Yeah.
So that's put
You've
2 and 2.
got to wait for the eggs.
You're one of these new scientists. You should come and work with us now.
No, right. Imagine me. I try to. We got this one up. Hang on, I better put him in breadcrumbs. I'd do no good. I'd eat all the specimens. So, okay, you've got that. How long do the eggs take to hatch?
Yeah, around 40, 60 days for those, similar to the calamari.
Calamari, the same.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got that other slide brought back up if we could. An interesting stat, the bias sex ratio, 11 males to every female.
That's it. So it's a bit of
what's the go with that?
Bit of competition for mating. Yeah. But the calamari, these cuttlefish, they might mate with one male, or they might with several different males. Yeah. And again, that's again to get that genetic diversity for the species.
Okay. And the other bit of information you got there is the individuals returned to their spawning location. They've been track moving 65 kilometres. So where they're born.
Yep. So they're born, they'll go moving back, and then they'll come back to the original place that they hatched out from.
That's
fascinating stuff.
Pretty amazing. There's a very big fishery in the Spencer Gulf, and South Australia have some pretty strict rules. I think we've got a bit of information there. Tell us about that.
So again, this is South Australia, not totally different fishery to what we have here, and they've had different numbers of cuttlefish from year to year, to the point where they've had to close the fishery. There's big tourism industry over there, and they've got temporary cuttlefish closure areas. They're still closed until I think midway through next year, and also calamari and octopus closure areas for the protection of their animals too.
There you go. Unfortunately, time's up, mate.
Out of time?
Yeah, great information. We try to cram as much as we can. Mate, seriously, thanks for coming to the show. Great information. Pleasure. I know we've crammed a lot in, and people want to watch this, they can see the replay on C31 plenty of times, or on our Facebook page. But appreciate you guys. Thanks, boys. Been a big season.
Got a season in the bank.
While Trelly's AWOL, you've been fantastic. Thanks for coming up the highway and
filling in ways on his expeditions.
But that's it for Talking Fishing. We sincerely hope you have enjoyed another season of our show. We take a break for winter, and over that break you can still see Talking Fishing every week here on C31 as they replay the entire last season. A big thank you to you, our loyal viewers, for watching us, for your contribution through Catch the Week photos and the mail you send us. Also, a massive thank you to the crew behind the scenes as well. Without them, the show would not go to air. Until we see you again when we return in August on Talking Fishing, please stay safe on the water and enjoy your fishing.
Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing. We got all you need, just take a look. Watch those fish jump on your hook. So just relax and take your time. Enjoy the show, then drop us a line. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing. Talking fishing, nothing but fishing, we're talking fishing. Talking fishing.
Have a good weekend, Mr. Walker.
You too, son.